Welcome back to offpad.com. In episode 8 we take you further through Peru, reaching almost the western coastal areas. We have been on the road for roughly 10 weeks now, done more than 10,000 kilometers, and the area which we are heading for is one of the most exciting in Peru, albeit not quite as well known. We had spent more than 3 weeks around Cusco, visiting various sites, and now we are taking the road towards Huascaran. In this area we want to explore the Cordillera Blanca, one of the nicest mountainous areas, and the Parque Huascaran, in which the highest mountains of Peru are situated.
Turn right onto Avenida Georgia.
Needless to say, the same pain with our GPS to exit Cusco. It took us almost 2 hours to really get out of the city, and we realized that the traffic in the direction we're heading, which is also one of the main arteries towards Lima, will be quite busy. Ahead of us were 4 mountain passes exceeding 4,000 meters in altitude, a lot of curves and winding stretches with heavy traffic at times. We soon realized that unless we keep up with the driving and the driving style of the Peruvians, we're not going to make any headway. After 177 kilometers we were totally exhausted and decided to set up camp in a wild spot overlooking the Salcantay mountain area. This section was a good tarred road and we made reasonable progress.
Turn left onto Pay 30A.
We managed to do about 285 kilometers and then decide to pitch camp near Calebamba on the Rio Pampas at an elevation of only 1,983. Balmy evening, 30 degrees, very relaxing, not too many mosquitoes.
Wir genießen die letzten Sonnenstrahlen.
We celebrated the day with an early sundowner and supper and retired for the night. Our next destination is Ayakucho, with 2 further mountain passes of 4,300 and 4,150 meters between us and there. The road remained good, the scenery spectacular, and on the road we found our first tarantula in this region. Above 4,000 meters we entered the typical Puna landscape, no more trees, but we found our first Puya Raimondi plant. Along the road we spotted some wild vicuñas. As we descended down towards Ayakucho, we suddenly had virtually no more brakes, and as we entered town it was just a screeching sound. It was Saturday lunchtime and we managed to still find the Toyota dealer garage to get an assessment of what the problem was. Our brake linings melted by overheating in the passes, and also we had problems with a disc that had to be skimmed. Being a Saturday, they could not help us further and we had to return Monday morning. We booked into the Ayakucho Plaza Hotel and start exploring the little town, and were fascinated by the artisanal ice cream that was made alongside the plaza. On the plaza itself there were 4 churches, and Ayakucho itself has more than 30 of them. Since we had to stay in Ayakucho until the vehicle was repaired, we checked out the various activities, including the evening fireworks at one of the cathedrals, and also visited some live music, explored the plaza, etc. We were slowly getting accustomed to the noisy town, but were still astonished when we saw this refuse truck with blaring music collecting all the rubbish in the town. We made our way to Toyota to get the brake pads fitted that had to be ordered from Lima and get the discs skimmed, but then we were informed that there was not enough metal left to skim the discs and that we had to stay another 2 days. Fortunately, one set of drum and disc assemblies were available from Toyota in Lima. This could have cost us 30 days waiting if it hadn't been the case. Toyota did a fantastic job in assisting us, and we could leave Ayakucho again. We've virtually lost 5 travel days through this incident, and Marion and Bernd Frauendorfer, whom we had met in Cusco, were making their way up the coast in Peru, and our intention was to meet up with them to get into Ecuador. So this involuntary stop in Ayakucho wasn't quite fitting into our plans.
Huanta.
Operativo antidrogas.
Buen día.
Without a decent map and the GPS not helping either, it took us a while to find our way on the back roads into the direction of the Cordillera Blanca. The roads through the mountains didn't get exactly better. They got very small, very steep and treacherous. In order to get to the Cordillera Blanca area, we first had to drive towards the coast and then back up into the Andes Mountains.
Kannst dich ruhig entschuldigen.
As we so often experience in Peru, to cover a relatively short distance can take you a whole day.
Der muss man nicht so schnell fahren. Dann würde ihm das auch nicht passieren.
The scenery in these mountains certainly compensated very well for the stress that we had on the road itself. Oncoming traffic could come around any of these corners any second of the day, and one had to drive with very high concentration to avoid possible collisions.
Cielo nicht der.
Schon wieder so eine kleine Brücke.
For a long distance the road snakes along the Rio Montado. Towards late afternoon we started looking out for a possible camping spot and finally found a small road leading down to what looked like a small farm. Here we inquired with the farmer, Marcelino, whether he was okay that we would spend the night on his property. The high water mark was evident on the trees and we were quite happy to be here in the dry season. Marcelino had brought us some prickly pears as a welcoming gift in the evening, and next morning he surprised us with freshly boiled wild potatoes.
Vampire sind noch
127. Wow. Guck mal.
We were amazed what size of truck and buses were negotiating this narrow stretch of road.
Wie soll denn das jetzt vonstatten gehen?
Nee, das geht
Wie
nicht.
soll denn das vonstatten
Nee,
gehen?
das geht nicht.
For quite a while we had asked ourselves why Peruvians drive with window open, but it started all making sense. One needs to hear the hooter of the oncoming traffic. Mariscal Caceres, there is a train running to Lima. Right through the mountains, negotiating some 60 tunnels and 50 bridges.
Der hat keine Lust, sich zu unterhalten. Grüß dir.
Quite often one would witness fault lines through the roads where the tar is consistently destroyed by earthquakes. Although along this stretch of road we had a lot of police presence, generally they were very courteous and polite. We had no problems whatsoever.
Das heißt auch was Besonderes.
Ich habe kein Clou.
Neue Kirche.
Pass auf, dir kommt ein Motorradfahrer entgegen.
From Huancayo onwards, the road was a good tarred road, but the traffic was a nightmare. It seems in Peru a double line means this is a spot to overtake. One will see that everywhere.
Da kommt ein Wagen von vorne.
Du musst mal auf den Bremseländer.
Check, der musste nicht stehen bleiben.
Das Trucks ohne Ende.
Soon we entered an area where there is a lot of mining activity in the Andes, and the traffic at La Oroya towards Lima was picking up enormously. Here we witness a car having to swerve off the road for the oncoming truck. Didn't quite make it when overtaken.
Das geht aber nicht.
Towards late afternoon we hit a stretch of road with heavy roadworks. Unfortunately it wasn't controlled well. They only had two ladies with a flag trying to stop the heavy trucks, who would just simply ignore them and continue.
Oh, guck, was spannend.
This caused heavy delays, and finally we decided to take a little side road and find a sleeping spot. The problem was the altitude at almost 4,500 meters. It wasn't pleasant to sleep here, and it was ice cold. So we continued early in the next morning.
Turn right onto Peru Gallo.
Finally, we got closer to Lima and skirted around the city on the Panamericana.
Buenos días.
país desde Sudáfrica.
Sudáfrica. Mira, ahí tiene timón a la derecha, mira. Acá en el Perú es al revés. Timón a la izquierda.
Español, poquito. Ya.
Ah, ya.
Viaja Uruguay, Paraguay,
Ya.
Bolivia, Perú. We turned off into Barranca, but we could not find any suitable camping site. So we continued along the Panamericana, and according to our overlander, there could be a spot at kilometer 228 where wild camping was possible at Punta Bermejo. We camped fairly close to the fisherman's hut, and next morning drove up to the viewpoint where we had a breakfast with a splendid view.
Panamerika an so einer Bucht geschlafen und frühstücken heute Morgen hier mit Butow. Nicht wie die Nacht davor bei 4480 Metern.
Huascaran prepared for us some of the prickly pears from Marcelino from the previous night.
Marcelino, die wir beim letzten Campen. Außen ganz grün, innen ganz rot und ganz lecker.
Even on this remote beach, the plastic pollution was very apparent. As we started driving from the coast towards Conococha to reach the Cordillera Negra, we saw large fields of chilies being dried. This area is very arid, but the water coming off the mountains flowing to the coast allow for very good agricultural activities. Took us a full day's driving to drive from the coast up to the Cordillera Blanca, which has 3 entry points. The first gate is to reach the glacier Pastoruri, and as we arrived fairly late in the afternoon, we had to make a plan as the gates were closing and there's no camping opportunity inside the park. So we camped on the parking lot with ablution facilities left open for us. The sunset was spectacular, although the temperatures dropped below freezing and we had to keep warm by other means. In such a case, a good red wine helps for a sundowner.
Ich das manchmal gar nicht schaffen. Ah, der Berg kriegt Sonne.
as so often the temperature dropped and it was a very cold night. Early in the morning it allowed us to watch some birds and observe a nesting feud between a Indian gull and a giant coot on
Nationalpark
a small lake
Huascaran
close to the parking lot.
zu sehen gibt.
We then drove into the park, and our first goal was to see the many Puya Raimondis and understand more about these fascinating plants that only flower once in their lifetime. So whenever you see a brown dark stem, it's a plant that has flowered and died off. This bromeliad can reach an age of up to 100 years and has 6,000 to 10,000 flowers producing millions of seeds. Next we drove up to see the Glacier Pastoruri. This time we decided to take horses to get up to the glacier. A map provided information how much this glacier has receded since 1983. It is almost unbelievable.
Dass wir wieder mal
The park has a total of 33 archaeological sites. This one included which sports some rock paintings. Parque Huascaran is a World Heritage Site and very popular for trekking and climbing. It has plenty of climbing
In
routes
1.5 kilometers, turn
and
left
about
onto
25
longitude
for trekking
Sierra North,
circuits.
pay 3 north.
In the afternoon we reached Huaraz, and since there was no camping facility in town that we could find, we stayed in the yard of a hotel. The next morning we drove to Caruas in order to enter the park again.
Turn left onto Progreso.
This section of the park is called the Ulta section, and from here one has a very good view
Das ist der
of the highest mountain in Peru,
der höchste Berg.
Nevado Huascaran.
Hier immer noch auf einem richtigen Weg sind, ich weiß nicht.
Chiapas. Ja, Chiapas.
Oh ja.
Ja, in das Mitte.
On May 31st in 1970, this area had a major earthquake disaster. The death toll in the area was around 50,000 people.
Jetzt an der guten Seite.
A massive ice shield from this mountain created a avalanche into the valley below that wiped out the town of Yungay completely. In Yungay alone, 18,000 people perished, and all that's visible today is a memorial. The Ulta section is reached by a good tarred road that ends at the Olympic Tunnel and carries on the other side of the mountain range. The entire route offered breathtaking views of the surrounding mountains, which include all the highest peaks in Peru. As we approached the tunnel, a car overtook us and almost collided with a bus. After we enjoyed the scenery on the other side of the mountain range, we turned around and back through the tunnel to view the highest peaks once more. The Polylepis Raccamosa is a species of small tree in the family Rosaceae and is endemic to Bolivia, Peru, and parts of Ecuador. It's a threatened species of tree. Late afternoon, we arrived in Caras and managed to find very comfortable camping on Camping Guadalupe, a farm run and owned by Jaime and his wife Flores. Jaime really took care of us. Wi-Fi was excellent and he managed to get our kettle fixed in Caras the next day while we were gallivanting back into the mountains. This time around we went into sector Langanuco, which has two very scenic lakes at the start of the pass. One enters through sheer walls of granite, probably 1,000 meters high.
Oh, ist das bedrohlich.
Davor?
This sector of the park is particularly popular for trekking and ice climbing.
Bei 4100.
This time round it's a rough dirt road taking you into the mountains, and the pass has incredible number of serpentines to get up there.
Diese da, guck da in diese Pyramide.
$4.600.
Ach, da fährt der. Ach, wie viel Serpentin sind das noch?
Sehr ermutigend, wenn man hier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Kreuze sieht.
Sonst nicht so sagt. Bitte.
Okay, bitte.
Ja, wir wiegen viel, wir können genauso gut hier was abbrechen.
This time round there is no tunnel but just a very narrow gap to get onto the other side. However, we didn't drive down, we simply enjoyed the views from the altitude.
So, 4.720.
We turned around at just over 4,700 meters. It may be worth noting here that on a turbo-driven vehicle at these altitudes, the lag until the turbo sets in is quite pronounced. It is certainly advantageous to use a turbo-driven vehicle in these high mountain areas in order to have enough power at altitude.
Und da hinten ist nur Huascaran.
made our way back to Camping Guadalupe, having spent one of our finest days on the entire journey in these mountains. It was a fascinating trip, and we strongly recommend any person visiting Peru to visit Cordillera Blanca.